Hi everyone. I just had to do this today. I actually sent a letter to several of our government officials talking about the necessity of taking a stand. And I did it in the first person. And some of you have received this through an email so that you could see what I was doing. But I wanted to read it on YouTube for obvious reasons. So I will be reading this. I hope that's okay. To all my family and friends, I sent my pledge, which I will read in a minute. I sent my pledge to our government servants. They are not officials, they are not authorities, and they are not immune from natural law, and have drawn the line in the sand. I bid you adieu, should they object, which I suspect they will. They have known about my stand for 30 years, so standing up will have no more consequence for me than if I were silent, except the demands of my conscience, which would render me guilty of the most grievous omission. If we do not stand now, our loved ones and all innocents will disappear from off the face of the land. There is no more time for conjecture. It is all there. Loss of the Bill of Rights, Agenda 21, NDAA, the Patriot Act, Expatriation Act, John Warner Defense Act, anti-gun legislation, out-of-control taxation and raiding of our wealth, a drug war really intended to enslave the nation, Fast and Furious, intelligence lies to justify war, murder of Americans on 9/11 and countless other false flags, militarization of the police and the architecture of a police state, fluoride and everything else that they're putting in the water and the food, TSA invasion into our most private personal space, open borders, and I could go on to identify a numerous list of abuses and grievances. If you read the Declaration of Independence, all of those abuses are happening today in one form or another, with the exception of the quartering of troops. I yearn for a normal life, the love of a woman, to be surrounded by loved family and friends, abundance, peace. I have tasted these, but much has eluded me. Yet, I have been blessed to be in places and circumstances where I was able to develop the discernment to watch the events unfold in our world and understand them. Indeed, evil is rampant, and the methods by that element to gain control are hideous and ruthless. So, I conclude I must abandon all hopes of that which is the greatest desire of a man's heart, and turn to the gate where the enemy approaches. My name is sullied for the stands I have made in the past, but those stands were not for a limited ideology. They were made for the freedom of all men, all mankind, to govern their own lives. If you have not, please view my videos on YouTube at Roy Potter QA, and those will hopefully point out the necessity of my current stand. I can do but little, but I do all I can. This is what I sent to our representatives, supposed representatives, our government people. A promise to all government officials and agents. Our government has declared veterans and gun owners domestic terrorists. Why? Because you've used us across the world and we know your methods. You are now unleashing those methods upon our own people. Therefore, you fear our knowledge and our resolve. Be it known that I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to defending the Bill of Rights for every American. And will resist any attempt by this government or any other or their agents to deny you, my countrymen, of the promises of your heritage and your God-given unalienable rights. So help me God. The enemy is at the gate, and he has uncloaked, ready to attack. Beware and see. All who would deny you your heritage, regardless of pomp, narrative, or propaganda, are your enemy. I will not suffer the subjugation and annihilation of the children of our forebears without a fight. I have sworn, as Thomas Jefferson did, and I'm going to make his quote right here, This is Thomas Jefferson. I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. And I signed it, and so I, Royston Potter. And then I included something from Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Because we are asleep, they have put us asleep. And I wanted everyone to hear this. This is a quote from him during the purges in Russia. Quote, "And how we burned in the camps later, thinking, what would things have been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive and had to say goodbye to his family? Or if, during periods of mass arrests, as for example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, paling with terror at every bang at the downstairs door and at every step on the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose, and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else was at hand. The organs would very quickly have suffered a shortage of officers and transport, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine which he had would have ground to a halt. If we didn't love freedom enough. And even more, we had no awareness of the real situation. We purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterward. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. If we had stood up, if we had said no, if we had refused to comply, if we had employed civil disobedience, if we told our officials that they were outlaws. So I wanted to leave this because even with my name being sullied in the past because of my stands that I have taken, and as I mentioned in my narrative there, it was not just for me, it wasn't just for one ideology, it was a principle that men should be able to govern their own lives, and the government has no business involved in your personal affairs, unless you're hurting someone. But as I said in the terrorist definitions, we've come to the point where they want to make everybody a criminal, and they do it by definition, not by any wrong action on your part, but simply by saying that it's such. No basis on legal or moral grounds. Okay, well, line in the sand. Thanks.